state championship in the heavyweight division. Nobody has ever done it at that weight class before. Can he do it? We'll get his thoughts at 6:30. We'll buy or sell on NFL-related topics. T. Higgins Watch is back, baby.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which position will be hurt the most in college football by the 105-person roster cuts? We'll debate.
Long
At
snapper.
7:30.
Please, no.
Who is the ideal non-Big Ten regularly scheduled opponent for Nebraska? Do we want Nebraska versus Oklahoma? Do we love the Colorado rivalry?
Kennesaw State.
Will Dan Campion just get naked for no reason in the studio? Those are all questions that we'll be able to answer for you by the end of the show. We're here until 8 o'clock. You can get a hold of the show.
It's not a sauna, Dan.
At After Hours 1620,
Yet.
or you can give us a phone call at 402-951-1620, where Brody Heidemann can take your phone calls because he doesn't have school tomorrow.
Bang.
EJ Barthel gets a raise and an extension today. The running backs coach at Nebraska gets a little bit of a pay bump. He's now on the same pay scale with Rob Dvorak, the linebackers coach. They're both making $450,000.
Full fitty.
A year. That's a lot of money. In your opinion, is this just the way business works at the college football level now? Or should coaches have to earn this if they're not getting fired? Because it kind of feels like Troy Dannon, Matt Rule looked at the staff and said, well, all these guys are still here.
Yep.
We're not firing them. We're not paying them to leave. So the only alternative is to give them more money, correct?
I mean, salaries don't go down.
That's kind of where I'm like, this feels more like a cost of living raise than a merits raise.
It's just a competitive raise, right? Like he talked to two other schools.
Yeah.
Probably had offers on the table from at least one of them at a
kind of feels like he would have had to get this raise,
at a similar pay raise. This is what you do in business, right? Like if you are thinking about changing companies, the first thing you do is you go back to your current company and say, look,
you want to match this?
I've got an offer from another place. Can you match it? And if they say yes and you like it there, you stay. And that's clearly what happened here.
I know anybody that's listened to this show or heard me talk about this position and this position group
and this
at
position
this university
coach.
and this position coach is going to say you've been clamoring for him to be let go for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But here's my problem. You've had a lot of misses at this position from a recruiting standpoint. You had A.J. Allen in your locker room when you got here. You couldn't keep him. Now, the more we look at the A.J. Allen situation after leaving Miami and now ending up at Florida Atlantic, that might be an A.J. Allen problem, and I'll give you a pass there. But also, when you look at maybe the biggest recruiting miss of the Nebraska Matt Rule experiment with Kewan Lacey, who you had in the class committed and decided to pull the parachute and go elsewhere, doesn't look good. Now, you had Emmett Johnson buried on the depth chart at the beginning of the year last year, and the one recruiting win that you have is through the transfer portal and Dante Dowdell. And we'll get to the running backs in the next class and the Quentin Ives discussion here in a second. But the Dante Dowdell thing fizzled out and didn't work out. That was a great piece. It was what you needed a year ago, but couldn't keep him in the boat either. And now the guy that was there when he walked in the door, who was considered the third and fourth guy on the depth chart this season, is now the highest paid running back in the room. And feels like, now we don't have any proof in the pudding here that despite what the coaching said and the scheme allowed him to do, earned his way to that spot almost by himself. And obviously the help of Dana Holgorsen didn't hurt either.
Sure.
Now, they seem to really like Quentin Ives. That was something that Matt Rule talked about.
They were just clamoring for ways to get him on the field.
Dana Holgorsen mentioned him by name, which he didn't really do. He usually named a lot of numbers. Mentioned him by name at the end of the season. So clearly there's something there.
He doesn't look like a kick return guy, but they were using him as a kick return guy just to give him a spot.
And he's an EJ Barthel guy.
Yeah.
So I kind of wonder if you're Matt Rule, and not that he needs to do this, because listen, Matt Rule's in the power chair in Lincoln right now, right? But if you're going to Troy Dannon or whoever's got the checkbook and saying, this is why EJ Barthel deserves this pay raise, other than what you just mentioned by the two visits that he had, it's got to be, okay, we feel like Quentin Ives is the next coming, and we can credit X amount of success from Emmett Johnson this year to EJ's coaching. Because I don't know if there's anything else you can really hang your hat on. If we're talking about basing this on merit, the Nebraska running game has not been productive for 3 seasons.
Okay.
Now, there's a lot that goes on there. That's player personnel development, the offensive line, the running scheme, and the offensive play call, right? It's not all in the running backs coach. Does anybody feel like they've seen what it was given to us as the game plan from the head coach himself all the way down to the players really develop the running game in Lincoln over the last 2 seasons? Because I don't know if I feel that way.
Do you think it makes a difference that they got Mekhi Nelson, Jamarian Parker, and Connor Booth in the last 2 recruiting classes?
So that's where I think that last name you gave, it was Jamarian Parker, the last name you said?
Connor Booth.
The second name you gave us. I think if it's not Quentin Ives, that's the answer, because they feel like they went in, they stole him, and he's going to be the hidden gem of this class. Now, with that being said, you just gave a guy a pay raise and an extension based on what you hope happens.
Mm-hmm.
And we have seen that happen a lot around here. Take a look in Orlando right now. We're going to get to that guy here in a second.
Yeah.
It just seems to happen at this university where it's like, we haven't seen much, but we like it. We're going to keep you around. Here's a little bit of an extension, some extra cash in your pocket. We hope it works out. Like, at some point, whether it be the head coach or the highest paid tight end coach in the country, or an extension to a running backs coach that you're based on potential and not merit. Like, at some point, there's got to be proof in the pudding, right? Or is this just how college athletics is working?
Well, I mean, I think there's more to consider with this position, right? So, do you believe you can go out and convince someone who you think will do a better job to come? And it has to be not only just someone who can do a better job, but someone you're going to feel comfortable with, who's going to fit into your staff
and can manage that locker room.
Right. Do you think that perhaps under the tutelage of a new OC that EJ Barthel can make improvements with a different set of eyes, right? Because it doesn't feel like we're just going to get whoever EJ Barthel wants on the field. Like, that's Dana Holgorsen. It feels like Dana Holgorsen is going to be much more involved in personnel decisions.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I don't think you even have to say it feels like that. Feel like that's been pretty well attributed.
So I think with some of the changes on the staff and some of the things that have shaken up, it maybe seems like, okay, we're going to keep this as is for now. We're going to give it a chance to work out under the new regime, and we'll see. Because, like, they've changed a lot of coaches on the staff.
Yeah.
And, like, to change one more, like, at what point are we past the tipping point where it's all too new? You know, there has to be some consistency. So I think, like, in spite of what you could point to as a lack of production from the running back position, I think there's still a chance to say, like, we're going to just go with consistency and see if we can work it out with the new regime. That's the way I'm reading the situation. And beside the fact that there were a couple of other schools that wanted this guy and you had to pay him more money to keep him around.
I also wonder, just kind of talking myself into convincing myself, I wonder how much of it is the timing also, right? Like, it's February. It's not the end. It's not the end of November. And going out and getting a coach and convincing them to leave a spot, probably a little more difficult to do this late / early into the process of the end of last season, beginning of next season. Might be a tougher sell to get somebody to come here. And it's a lot cheaper to keep an employee than hire a new one, right?
Sure.
And when you're talking about all the money being spent in Lincoln right now, whether it be from a stadium project or revenue sharing, trying to raise funds, and by the way, still trying to win football games, just got a fat check from Aramark as well. So that helps out a little bit. I gotta wonder how much this was a time and money saving effort too.
Well, I mean, you're going to spend money on a coaching search in the first place. So that's just, you know, it's not empty dollars, but it's dollars that are not necessarily going straight into the product on the field. And then you're going to have to pay this person a salary, which is probably going to end up being similar to what you're paying the guy currently to keep him around and keep the consistency. So I think if you're doing a cost benefit analysis, how much better of a running backs coach are you going to get? At this stage of the game, honestly, would you get somebody who's 10% better? I mean that's a stretch.
And without the length of search you're going to need, right?
Sure.
So it's a couple of things that are tenfold, but
and we don't know. Maybe Matt Rule and his advisory staff looked around the country and said, "Could we get this guy? Could we get this guy? Do we want this guy? Would we go after this guy?" And maybe there weren't options out there that they really felt like would be a significant improvement that they thought they could lure to campus.
And
we don't know.
Did Matt Rule look at everything he's been doing with the national convention he did this weekend and traveling around to all the different venues that he's been at and doing FaceTime at? Go, Troy, I really don't feel like dealing this right now. Do we have a couple extra thousand we can throw to EJ just to keep him around? Because listen, man, it has been a long 2 years for Matt Rule, and just the Tony White departure had to have probably taken a lot out of the sales for him.
Sure.
Even though everybody, including the head coach in Lincoln, probably knew that he was leaving anyway. It's just like there's a reason most coaches show up to Lincoln, look bright and new and shiny when they get here. By the time they leave, look a little puffy and a little gray and long in the tooth, because this job is not for the weak. And I think that's been the most impressive thing about what Matt Rule has been able to do since he took this job is he seems to appreciate the process and the grind in which this job needs and what it takes. I think it's been really refreshing. And I am not the world's biggest CJ Barthel fan. That has been highly documented, right? But I'm with you. I'm lockstep with you. I think this is definitely man, I just need something that feels like last year still around here.
Yep.
And if it's it was a lot of money for us, but in the coaching world, not that big of a raise. So I think he kind of went lockstep with those ideas.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is it's a move to keep some form of consistency on the staff and at least carry over a little bit of a consistent voice to the next year.
Yeah, and you know who's wanting to get paid but probably not going to? The kids that were on Last Chance U. Bob Williams from Williams Law is going to join us next. Tell us, do they have a legal leg to stand on to try to get paid from the Netflix documentary series? We'll debate that with Bob Williams on the other side of the break. If you missed the opening segment tonight, check it out at SoundCloud.com/afterhours1620. It was brought to you by Aloe Fiber. Look outside right now. You see all that doom and gloom out there? It's cold. You know what that means? Warmer temperatures are coming soon.
Ooh.
You have back patio? You like hanging out? You maybe got a pool area, but the Wi-Fi doesn't get out there. Doesn't extend quite that far. The new outdoor extender from Aloe Fiber is incredible. It goes all the way not only through my yard, I can get my Wi-Fi on my back neighbor's patio as well. If you need that big of range for your Wi-Fi, check out aloefiber.com tonight. Bob Williams of Williams Law talking about Netflix documentaries. We come back at 1620 The Zone.
Hey everybody, John Schreiner here for Jerry Ryan Clothing and Sportswear. It's February, and do you know what that means? It means you're starting to think about golf. That's right. Yes, golf season's right around the corner. How's your polo game looking? Are you ready to get out there and impress the boys not only with the swing you've been retooling over the winter, but with your new threads? If you need some new golf gear, go to Jerry Ryan Clothing and Sportswear, 78th and Dodge. They've got all your favorite brands. Johnny O. I love my Johnny O polo that I got. You can get Cutter and Buck. You can get Mizzen and Main. You can get all the great stuff to make you look like $1 million when you head out to the links. Yeah, I know it's hard to think about right now, but soon enough, we're going to be talking about golf carts and coldies with the boys. That's right. It's coming right up. Get yourself over to Jerry Ryan. Get the good threads. Get them today. 78th and Dodge. They've been dressing Omaha for over 50 years.
Mainly cloudy and frigid tonight. A few flurries. There's a cold weather advisory for the wind chills between 20 below and 25 below zero. Mostly cloudy and still frigid for Wednesday with a high temperature near 3. I'm Chief Meteorologist Bill Ranby from KETV News Watch 7.
You can get a great craft beer pretty much anywhere these days. But what about the whole package, dining out, service, and atmosphere? Come to Cunningham's Pub and Grill, home of Omaha's original smoked wings, now with 2 locations. We're bringing back Sundays at our Old Mill location this fall, where you can catch all the sports while enjoying quality food and drinks. Find your flavor and follow us online for unique daily specials and fun craft beer events. Cunningham's Pub and Grill in Old Mill and now Blackstone.
Ready to make a positive impact in a young boy's life? Join Big Brothers Big Sisters of the Midlands and become a mentor where you are matched up with a boy in the greater Omaha area. Over 50 boys are waiting for someone like you to guide and inspire them. Visit mentoromaha.org and sign up to make a difference in a boy's life. Don't wait. Make a lasting impact today.
From the Sandhills to the Metro and everywhere in between, the Nebraska State Patrol is dedicated to keeping Nebraska safe. And now is your chance to join the mission. With a statewide SWAT team, criminal investigations, aviation, drone operations, Husker detail, and more, there are unlimited ways to define your career with a title that stands for excellence. Trooper. Applications open February 24th. Visit nebraskatroopers.com to get ready to patrol the good life.
.621 on a Tuesday night here at 1620 The Zone, the home of all of LARPing in Omaha. We're brought to you by Bellevue University. Head over to bellevue.edu. Register for classes.
Again, speak for yourself.
You could be LARPing on Bellevue's campus with John Schreiner this fall. Bob Williams of Williams Law joins us as he does every week here to discuss the legal issues facing the sporting world. And this brings us to
hello, guys.
Something that is near and dear to this time slot. During the pandemic, the show that used to be in the slot, we reviewed all of Last Chance U. We got the chance to interview Brittany Wagner. We got a chance to interview the former offensive coordinator at East Mississippi Community College, and we reviewed all of these episodes. We got to know these athletes pretty well. They are suing the documentary creators of the kids from 6 kids from East Mississippi Community College are suing the film creators of Last Chance U for benefiting from their name, image, and likeness and not providing any financial compensation for doing so. There's one major problem with that. Providing athletes with compensation at this time was illegal, deemed by the NCAA. Bob Williams, the question I have for you is the Supreme Court dubbed the NCAA not letting athletes benefit from their financial gains as being illegal. Does that give these athletes at East Mississippi Community College any grounds to stand on?
Well, I think you got to look at this through the lens of an attorney here. And if you look at the contract that they presumably signed, now the information I could find is that these gentlemen, these young men, 6 of them are suing for $30 million approximately for this false light claim and monies that they think they should have been able to be paid. And you're bringing up the component, obviously, of, well, they weren't eligible for NIL at the time. How would that be looked at, in the rear view mirror, correct?
Yeah.
So if you're looking at the contract on the front end, we have to ask ourselves, did they sign a valid contract, or did they validly sign a contract? Were they of age to sign a contract? Did they have forethought in signing that contract? Were they
pressured into doing
Were they
something?
pressured into it? Was there
that's a
any
good point.
any other were there any other items of pointing, inducing duress on these guys that would impose some type of pressure for them to sign at the time? Age alone is not one of them, unless you are below the age majority.
Right, and they're all in college.
That's they check the box there. I see that they've made in their complaint that they did not have sufficient time to consult with an attorney. Well, you don't have to have, quote unquote, there is no established sufficient time to consult with an attorney.
You're allowed to have
this is not an arrest on the
representation.
street
Mhm.
where you're saying I need a phone call, or you're at the jail and saying I need my one phone call, which is all pretty, by the way, bogus anyway.
Right.
No, I think this is a valid contract that they entered into. Now, they might have been naive at the time, and they may have not been able to appropriate funds or get paid funds from any benefit of this program. I think the bigger issue right now is, if you look where we are, 6 or 7 years removed from the
10.
original filming of this,
10. This will be
and
10
then
years
whenever
this
the
year.
initial broadcast was, even through the pandemic, is in California, there's a 1-year statute of limitations on false light claims. That's one of the defenses that Netflix and their ownership group's going to assert, trying to get this case dismissed before it goes very far.
So this case has been dismissed against Netflix, which is why they're filing against the documented creators. By the way.
So I missed that piece of the pie. But yes, I think the same legal tenets would be portable in the same way. Now, again, you asked about the NIL component. I can't say that there wouldn't be that this could be dismissed because of statute of limitations. If there's a new cause of action they would not have had back then,
right?
Yeah. You could theoretically try to argue that is told until there is a new cause of action, and maybe the recent rulings would enlighten the court. This certainly would be a case of first impression in this realm. In my career, I've had the opportunity to review a lot of different sports media contracts, and in almost every scenario, the parties signing these contracts, first of all, are usually getting paid because they're professionals. But secondly, they're licensing creative usability or licensing of their name, image, and likeness for the creators of the content, the producers of the content, the directors of the content, and whoever distributes the content. That creative license allows them to depict. I mean, think of all the different reality-based TV shows and how those they create some villain archetype usually within the confines of those different shows.
Right.
Even within this show, which they did. I think we've all seen enough of these episodes to kind of see how these guys were portrayed. But I guess if they did have a window of opportunity and this was not kicked out by the statute of limitations, I think the next step is, did they contract themselves out of the ability to do this in its own right by creative license?
So what it kind of reminds me of, and I know it's not a 1-to-1 comparison, but it reminds me of when a state legalizes marijuana, and then we look back when we look back into the past, and people who've been convicted of possession or distribution or any of that sort of thing, is the state then required to go and expunge those records because it's now legal, but it wasn't legal then? And that's sort of what this case reminds me of here. And, should the new way of doing things, the new law, the new sort of statute that we have in place, should that be retroactively applied to cases in the past?
I don't think it should in this scenario. Your first example, John, I would agree with the marijuana example. Most jurisdictions that have legalized at least carry amounts, amounts of marijuana for recreational or medical use, have gone in and done these mass expungements. Look at California, my God,
probably needed,
over a number of years, clogging up the system, and it probably needed to happen. In this instance, though, as I sit here thinking more about it, when these young men contracted, again, we're going to presume they signed a contract or a valid contract,
at least
back
a
in 2006,
release of some kind.
sort, which is a contract in its own right. if they signed that, then I think they knew at the time they could not get paid.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, that's how they sat at that point in time. And so their expectations were not to get paid. So I brought again, I don't think there's I don't know if you can retroactively look back. I don't believe you can.
I brought this up to John last night. And for anybody that hasn't watched the documentary, you may not know this, but there's literally a scene where one of the D2 schools comes in to recruit East Mississippi Community College. And one of the defensive linemen, not Ronald Ollie, but one of basically the guy he lived with, they ask him, hey, is there anything else we can do to get you to come to our school? And he's like, yeah, I can't talk about it right now because we got cameras. So clearly going, hey, I need a little bit more money than whatever you wrote on this piece of paper. Right. And the coach is like, well, whatever it is, if it's outside NCAA regulations, we're not going to do that. Like, hey, dummy, then maybe don't say that in front of the camera.
Right on the camera. And with stuff's been going on for decades upon decades.
Yeah. I don't know if this applies, but I think the only question left for me is, would it be possible that the contract they'd signed could be deemed in some way anti-competitive or illegal in some regard, and that it should be invalidated by a court if they can prove that?
I think there is a bit of an argument to be made there. Usually the courts will defer to the four corners rule, the four corners of the agreement, as long as as long as the parties mutually assented, both agreed to the agreement, or if it was released, it was a validly signed release. A person was of age, was not under duress, did not have some physical or mental disability that would have impeded their understanding of this. I think it would be pretty hard to jump outside of the four corners. And I think these type of situations, now moving forward, they're going to be obsolete, at least for the most part, because players are going to get paid. And will be some of these scenarios where we look back, but it's very unique. Would you not agree?
Yeah.
There's not going to be a lot of these left. I mean, Last Chance U, similar instances for collegiate level athletes. Yes, semi-pro, other pro,
they would have been paid.
Type stuff. Yeah, they would have been paid anyway. So this is a very unique scenario, and I would really, I think it'd be really big uphill climb to make that leap to crawl back.
It's surprising we haven't heard any of the
I think about the quarterback one series where they had the high school kids going around too, like Spencer Rattler and
sure,
Big Ten Network did all the Campus Confidential stuff where they were going behind the scenes at training camps and things like that. And I'm sure that those players would have had to sign a similar release, a grant of rights or some sort of thing.
I kind of listen, we're talking about very smart people at the top of education, right? But I wonder how many people went, we have the rights to the school. And it's common knowledge that players don't get paid. I wonder how many of these contracts actually happened because of practices and laws that were already in place that you may just assume you don't need, right? Because I think about, wasn't Desmond Howard a part of the group that was suing the bid? No, it wasn't. It was Shoelace. Denard Robinson. Thank you. Was suing the Big Ten Network for using his likeness in previous games, and that was going to change.
He was the cover of the last game, right?
NCAA video game, yeah, and which he got paid for, which is probably where his basis for the lawsuit came from. But I wonder how many people went, we don't have to have these kids signing. It's public knowledge that they don't get paid for this.
That is true, and it was for how many years?
Decades.
Because I mean, when you signed your letter of intent in the old model, you signed over your name, image, and likeness to the school, and they were then allowed to use it at their discretion and did not have to pay you for the usage of it. So anytime they granted the rights of their competition to a network, that covered everything, right? And with the new rules, I don't know. I mean, it makes it sort of complicated because in the NFL, you have the NFLPA, which grants all those name, image, and likeness rights to the broadcasts. We don't have anything like that in college.
I almost wonder if there's going to be some pseudo collegiate players association.
Yeah, they've tried to make unions and things, but they haven't been able to do it.
No, they have not been able to do that. But I wonder within each university how those collectives can work to help them. Because they want to be as friendly as possible with those players, obviously, but they also know they have to keep perpetuating the income, right? Perpetuating the money, perpetuating facilitating the contracts.
Our broadcast company's going to have to not only get the rights from the school, but also from the collectives who represent the players and own the rights to their name, image, and likeness now with the NIL payments.
Possibly so, especially with that example you're giving of the players doing their, from each of the schools doing their 2-minute, quarterback rundowns or whatever
Right.
it may be. That may be the case. Whereas before, they were doing it just to promote, to look good for their future potentially, right? They didn't.
Yep.
Players didn't have to say yes, I would do this, but they're probably pressured by the coaches and the universities to do them. And now, hey, you want me to do this? Scratch my back a little further.
Yeah. Right.
Criminal, civil, personal. Bob Williams with Williams Law is here to take care of you if you are maybe got after a little bit too hard after the New Year's celebrations and you're facing a DUI. Bob and his team would be more than happy to represent you. They're going to give you a free, no obligation legal consultation. Maybe you're an athlete and you want to sue Netflix. He can help you out with that after his crack research that he did here tonight. Head over to WilliamsLawLLC.com tonight and book a free, no obligation legal consultation with Bob and his team. Bob, thanks for doing this tonight, man. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Still no soapbox for the Super Bowl? Just want to make sure.
No soapbox needed.
All right.
Let the record speak for itself.
Go Birds, says Bob Williams. You know who's going to benefit from name, image, likeness? Tyson Terry. He's going to join us next to talk about his pursuit for a 4th state championship. We'll talk to the wrestler from Omaha North on the other side of the break. We come back. 16:27. 6:38 on a Tuesday night here on 1620 The Zone, brought to you by Bellevue University. Head over to bellevue.edu. Register for classes. You could become a Bruin as early as this fall. No classes on Fridays. You can do the majority of your classes online. And, of course, Bellevue's award-winning sports programs on campus as well. Unfortunately, this next gentleman not going to Bellevue University. He will be attending the University of Nebraska
They
to
don't
play
have a wrestling
football.
team or a football team, Jimmy.
That's true. That's true. Bellevue does not have a football or a wrestling team. Thankfully, Nebraska has both those things. Yet. True. But Tyson Terry from Omaha North Jones, we were discussing this off air. You're the first high school athlete to be in here without a coach, so we appreciate you making some time for us tonight.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate you guys having me.
You're looking to do a lot more first in the next couple of days here. You have the potential to be the first heavyweight wrestler to win 4 consecutive state championships in the state of Nebraska. What is the journey up until this point in the sport of wrestling meant to you?
Yeah, I mean, wrestling's been a huge part of my life. It was the first sport that I started, and my whole family, dad, uncles, cousins, they all wrestled. So dad wrestled in college. So it was kind of something that it was my my first sport, something that was a big part of my life. Growing up, I went across the country wrestling, different tournaments. That was my dad. I was very fortunate enough, with him. He just wanted the best for me. And so, I was able to go around the country, find the best competition, and just wrestling's been a part of my life. It always will be. And so now it's just, I'm just going to have fun over these next couple of days, last practice of, my wrestling career tomorrow, and then, last tournament here. So just going to have fun.
I think in today's day and age of travel ball and AAU and wrestling, I think everybody looks at that as, we got to save the kids and we can't let them get burned out. But you just mentioned it. How much did that schedule and traveling and wrestling at that young of an age benefit you as a wrestler today?
Yeah, I mean, it benefited me. Everything that all my success now, it's helped towards that. I think a lot of the kids, people I've like you said, I've heard get burned out, and for me, I guess it was kind of something. I wanted it. I wanted to be great. I always wanted to get better. That was kind of just how I was with, different sports, played baseball and football growing up. I just, kind of always wanted to be better. I was super competitive. I think with that, wrestling has just helped me with life, different lessons in life has helped me, with work, with, a different work ethic, than just, I would say, an average person, and just mental toughness all around. It's just, wrestling's helped me a long ways.
I'm sure you've been asked this a lot, but how tough was it for you deciding to play football over choosing to be a wrestler at the next level and continue that part of your career?
Yeah, it was a choice. Me and my dad kind of talked about, I love wrestling, love football, but it was kind of like football was a passion for me. And, thinking long term, there was, you made a lot more money.
Sure.
Yeah.
Going the football
that helps.
route.
The career opportunities are a little better.
We just got to talk to a lawyer about NIL before you walked in here.
yeah. And so, that was definitely big. Like, wrestling, there's really not much, money made there. And, football long term, things work out, everything, goes planned. It's a lot of money there.
Sure.
And so, my passion for football is just, it's always been there. I kind of loved it more, I guess. So,
sure.
Yeah.
Talk to me about your dad, man. I mean, every interview I've ever heard you do, you've referenced your dad, you referenced your father the last 2 times you were in on this show as well. What's your guys' relationship like, and what does he mean to you?
Yeah, my dad's everything, man. He's growing up, he pushed me, so hard. He was always, writing me, not just, with practices, but just, life lessons, teaching me how to do daily things. He just taught me about life in general, that, hard work, can have you achieve anything in life that you want. So growing up, I know we kind of, butted heads, for a few years.
Sure.
But now, that I've grown up.
Was he always right?
Yeah.
It's weird how that works out.
Yeah, pretty much. And so now that I've, kind of grown up and kind of become the person I am, I can't, thank him enough. And, he's just helped me so much. And, he means a lot to me.
So I'm wondering now about that. You're heading into your 4th state tournament, having won 3 already. Do you remember back to when you were a freshman heading into that first state tournament What was that like? What was that experience like compared to how you feel right now today heading into number 4?
It was, way different experience, because it was, as a spectator, you don't go down and, the tunnel, now you just, kind of sit up there. So you don't really know, how it is. And so, freshman year, I remember, that's when the girls had the state tournament.
Yep.
I remember that Friday night, it was semis, and I walked out there and I was just sold out crowd. And I was like, holy cow, like this is,
It's a lot to take in.
yeah, this is crazy.
They do it right down at the Chai, man. That event is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
And good luck to the ladies out on the mat tonight, by the way.
Yeah, for sure. But it was ridiculous. And now that, me, I've already been through, 3 state tournaments now. And so, I think it's still kind of a little shocking, at first, but obviously the butterflies and nerves are a lot more settled, now, but it's still a kind of cool, kind of fun tournament, I guess. It's a lot different than just a, district,
Sure.
going to the gym, they got the lights, everything, crowd. So it's fun.
Does having the beard this time around help?
Yeah. So that's what they had that rule.
Yeah.
And I was always so mad about that because I've always liked a little beard.
Took you back to freshman year for all the wrong reasons, right?
Yeah. So getting it trimmed up tomorrow, and then we'll be ready to rock.
Right on, man. What do you four state titles is a huge achievement. It's something that not everybody, I mean,
nobody's done.
Very
Nobody's
few people
done.
get to do it across weight classes.
Yeah.
Nobody does it in one weight classes four times in a row. I mean, can you put into words what it would mean for you to be the first to ever do that?
Yeah, it means a lot. It's kind of something I've never thought about. Growing up, it was just crazy. Like 4-time state champ. Like, wow, like
You're almost a celebrity.
Yeah.
You know? You meet one, you're like, oh,
yeah,
that's a 4-time state champ.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it really was. And then, kind of just to, as I got into middle school and then freshman year, just to, be in that position, it was kind of just shaping out. I just had to go out there and wrestle. I knew that I, trusted myself, trusted my training, and my wrestling, that, I felt like nobody could touch me. And that was kind of the mentality that I brought, with me into high school. It's just kind of carried on through these couple of years now. So
Omaha North's Tyson Terry joining us here on After Hours. I got to ask you, because obviously probably had to make a really tough decision before this year. You had the knee injury that sidelined you for football. We talked about it before we went on air, but how much of a decision was there into deciding? I know Coach Rule was behind you and said that he wouldn't mind if you went out for wrestling or whatever, but like, how much of a thought process was there around doing this for the 4th time with everything that was at stake?
Yeah, it was a big process. They, some coaches kind of wanted me to go down there right away, graduate early, and just be around the team. That was kind of, that's where I thought it was headed. Really, I didn't think, I was going to wrestle, and kind of just we, Nebraska staff, they kind of just gave us some room to think, and kind of just got to thinking, and this chance, it was something that I'm never going to be able to do again.
Right.
And so with Coach Rule, talking with him, and him, being behind me, it was just like, why not?
Yeah. Was it that simple? Was it as simple as why not?
I guess it wasn't really. It was pretty tough.
Sure.
It took a couple weeks for me to just kind of, it was a lot of talk with my family, with the coaches, with everybody really. So I knew that I just needed to trust myself. And so.
So we both wrestled growing up, and John said he still thinks he could take you on the mat. Thoughts?
I've been lifting lately.
Hey, man, congratulations on all the success. Thanks for doing this tonight with us. We greatly appreciate it. That's Tyson Terry from Omaha North, future black shirt, heading off to Lincoln after he gets done with his senior campaign at North. If you missed his segment tonight, check it out at soundcloud.com/afterhours1620. It was brought to you by Controlled Comfort Heating and Air. It's cold outside. You don't need to be hanging out with Jack Frost in your living room. Head over to controlledcomfort.com. Set up a maintenance appointment with Tony and the team. They're going to come out and they're going to take a look at your heater, take a look at your AC unit, make sure it's ready for summer as well. Check out Controlled Comfort. Set up that appointment. Controlledcomfort.com to set up that appointment tonight. We'll be right back, finding out what's trending on social media. We come back, 1620 The Zone. 6:52 on a Tuesday night where it's frozen outside. Brought to you by Bellevue University. You want to warm up? Head over to bellevue.edu. Register for classes. Start thinking about August. Enjoy the fall months. It's still sunny outside at 9 o'clock. 90 degrees. I can't wait. Brody Heidemann.
Good evening.
Doesn't have high school tomorrow either, so he's got our social media soundbite for us.
Yeah, it's going to be a great weekend, but it's not a soundbite. But
he had one job.
Today, a picture surfaced. Patrick Mahomes cut his hair, the back part of his hair, all gone. I don't know what you call the cut. I think it's more of a, Dan, do you know what it's called?
It's called a high top fade.
Thank you.
Oh,
Twitter.
It looks weird. I've not seen this yet.
Twitter immediately went straight to the Dylan Raiola. This man is going to be at a barbershop.
Well, so Dylan said before the season ended that he was going to cut his hair.
And that was the ironic part of it.
Is there any part of Pat Mahomes that was sick of getting the Dylan Raiola tweets? I was like, okay, if this kid's not going to do it, I will. Why does he look more normal now? I don't know. I like it.
It makes him look more professional.
He got rid of the bro hawk.
He looks like a grown-up.
He said, though, like during that Netflix quarterback series.
He did. This is true.
That he was like, it's going to be time pretty soon here to retire the old haircut. Because I'm a father now and I want to look respectable.
I mean, it's kind of hard to do that when you literally, you make the look. Like, the faux hawk wasn't really a thing at this level until Patrick Mahomes started rocking
It's a mullet. It's a bro hawk.
There we go.
It is. It is the.
But listen, when people
people
are going into the barbershop you go to and they're like, "Hey, I want the Pat Mahomes." That's tough to move on from that look, man. So good for Pat for growing up a little bit. Maybe the Super Bowl loss is what he needed.
Does Dylan if Dylan Raiola
cuts it like this,
cut his hair? Does this?
That'd be a bad look. Like if he cut it exactly like this, that would be a bad look.
Is that the cherry on top?
I don't care what Dylan Raiola does with his hair.
I do.
Dylan, if you're listening, 402-951-1620, you gotta shave the tiny baby thing that's on your
chin. Yeah, or grow it out. One of the two. Yeah, shave it or grow it out. Dylan,
the waist to
he's too cute for a full beard.
Dylan, if you're in Omaha, come on in 5011 Capitol Avenue. We'll let you announce school closing here on air. You've done it for other places.
Yes.
Fun.
We're the baby Gronk of radio programming.
Oh, don't do that. Don't do that. Never again.
Dan.
Do not put that evil on us.
Dude, hold on.
You watch your
Did we all see,
I need
though?
turn his mic
off
right
Dan?
now.
Did we see that Baby Gronk took down the Raiola post?
No, did he?
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
The Raiola post is gone off of Baby Gronk's Instagram.
We can never say that Baby Gronk never did anything good again because that's a net positive for everybody. If you want to find out what the social media soundbite wasn't tonight, check it out at soundcloud.com/afterhour1620. It was brought to you by our friends at Pixel Fire Marketing. If your business needs help with social media marketing, website design, or online advertising, pixelfiremarketing.com is here to help. They're local right here in Omaha, 132nd and Center. They can engage your social media presence and entice your ideal client online today. Check out pixelfiremarketing.com for more details tonight. We're buying or selling, and T. Higgins watch is back. We come back. 1620 The Zone. The workday's over. Your stomach's probably grumbling. Are you hungry? There's a cure right around the corner from where you're at. If you can hear the sound of my voice, you're within the very close vicinity to a Pepper Jack's in Omaha. Hey, everybody, it's Jimmy Allen here for Pepper Jack's Grill. You can stop by one of Pepper Jack's 10 great locations tonight. Try my personal favorite. It'll change your life. A steak rice bowl with onions, mushrooms, green peppers on top of it. Throw some black olives and spicy ranch over the top with some mild salsa. It is amazing. You're not going to be disappointed. Stop by one of Pepper Jack's 10 great locations and grab dinner tonight.
Holla at me. All I want is bad cheekers. I don't want no mediocre. Don't want no mediocre. I don't want no mediocre.
7:01 on a Tuesday night here on 1620 The Zone, presented by Pyramid Contractors. Head over to pyramidroof.com. Get a free estimate for your windows, your roof, your gutters, your siding. They do it all. Check out pyramidroof.com tonight. It's time for Buy or Sell, where Brody Heidemann has bailed on us. He's quit. Said he's walking out and never coming back.
Do you
Didn't
blame
want
him?
the smoke.
I think Tyson Terry beat him up and drug him to the
The
bathroom.
way you
actually.
talk to him, I wouldn't blame him.
Fair.
Dan Campion, you're going to be the person that settles for being verbally abused now. What do you got for us for Buy or Sell?
Andy Dalton and the Carolina Panthers have reached a deal on a 2-year extension. Buy or sell, this is a death sentence for Bryce Young.
I sell hardcore. I mean, they need a backup. Andy Dalton seemed happy in Charlotte. It kind of looked like things were turning around at the end of the season, too. I feel like Bryce Young is going to be their quarterback for this year specifically. But just in case it doesn't go the way you want it, you got to have somebody in place there.
Yeah, if they had done this extension mid-season when Andy Dalton was starting, then it might be a different answer. But like the way the season ended with Bryce Young sort of reclaiming his career and looking like a competent NFL quarterback, not good, competent NFL quarterback. Like this isn't the end.
But probably the best he's ever looked in his career as a pro.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, that's not saying very much.
Sure, good point. Dan?
I personally think that this isn't a problem for Bryce Young whatsoever. They obviously are just trying to give him a fatty little contract just in case Bryce Young does not work out. I do believe that your week 1 starter for the Carolina Panthers, the trashest franchise in all of trash franchises, will be Bryce Young.
Did you guys know that Tiger and Charlie are locked in for the TGL?
I saw that,
by the way.
Yeah.
Okay. You guys are golf guys.
It's time for another exciting edition of After Hours' T. Higgins Watch.
Really glad I didn't get rid of that drop when we were doing clean.
I told you we didn't need it anymore, so I'm glad you didn't either.
Well, it's T. Higgins Watch 2025 time. The Cincinnati Bengals want to run it back with Joe Burrow's 2 top weapons and want to bring Trey Hendrickson back on defense. Buy or sell, the Bengals should try and keep this group intact.
It's an interesting debate, right? Because, I mean, they didn't make the playoffs this year. It was, for all intents and purposes, from a win-loss standpoint, a down year. They set all sorts of records. I mean, Joe Burrow was putting up MVP type
Offense
numbers.
wasn't the problem, my man.
I agree, but the reason I say all that is to say Trey Hendrickson was in this discussion probably their best defensive weapon.
Probably among the best defensive linemen in the NFL.
Football. Yep, I agree. I'm trying to be the glass half full kind of guy here. Like it would be really hard to look up and down this roster and find a reason not to run it back from a talent standpoint. But with that being said, something's got to change next season.
Yeah.
So like
it's the same conversation we were having last year. How can they afford it?
Yeah.
At some point, you're going to have to let somebody walk. And again, we said it last year. It didn't happen last year. It feels like that somebody's T. Higgins. He's the odd man out.
He is our favorite player here on the show, though. Brody, are you okay?
I got beat up. I got destroyed.
Tyson Terry didn't put you in too hard of a headlock?
Yeah.
All right.
Little cross-face cradle on Brody.
Yeah. There you go. 2-part question. Have you ever wrestled before?
Never.
No.
Can you really picture me in a ring?
Well, they don't wrestle in a
Not
ring,
a
Brody.
ring, but like on the mat.
I can't picture either of those
yes,
things.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've seen plenty of dudes built like you that
Yeah.
wrestled, Brody.
Yeah.
None of them very well. But anyway, what's number 3?
Texans running back Joe Mixon has won his appeal with the NFL. The former Bengal criticized the officials in the Chiefs-Texans playoff matchup in the NFL eyes. Mixon said, "You can't leave the game in the ref's hands." Buy or sell, Mixon deserved to have his fine reversed.
What the hell did he get fined for in the first place?
Yeah.
He literally said that what everybody in sports has ever said, ever. And this is not a dig at the officials. Like it's also true, by the way. So, no, I'm glad that they gave him his $25,000 back.
Yeah, it was a stupid fine. If you listen to what the sentiment is, like maybe there's a hidden meaning, but we don't like go on hidden meanings,
You didn't
right?
need the word maybe there.
You don't leave the game in the ref's hands means don't play the game in such a manner that the game could come down to a referee's call, right? Like build such a lead that whatever the referees do doesn't matter. So I think it was stupid for the NFL to try to fine him for this in the first place. And they're called the No Fun League for a reason. Just leave it alone.
Kind of feels like the NFL is using AI and they're just searching for players' names with referees after it. They're just like, hey, fine, here you go. Brody.
Yeah, this was a great no call on the NFL's part to give him back his money, because that was a ridiculous fine to start with.
Upon further review.
Yeah.
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 The amount of money, I want to know what the amount of money the NFL gets in fines per year is.
Who gets it? That's what I want.
Yeah.
The NFL.
It's got to be
That's going
over
to somebody's pocket.
what, 5 million maybe?
Oh, easily.
There needs to be like one quarterback who just like goes off like every single week and is like, you know what? F the refs.
Yeah.
And they're like, all right, come on.
This is how Aaron Rodgers leaves the NFL.
The one you don't hear about that's like actually probably a boatload of money is the amount of money that teams fine their own players.
Yeah, true.
For various things, which like if you have ever heard the stories from former players about like things that players got fined for by their team,
like stiffing cotton balls or toilet paper up your nose while you're on the air.
It's ceaseless. It just never stops.
How much do you think Antonio Brown got fined for running off the field?
Not enough, if we're being honest. That dude is a menace on
I mean,
Twitter,
that was
too.
an easy fine, though, because they were just like, you know what?
You don't get a paycheck anymore.
We're prorating how much money you made.
Yeah. What do we got left, Brody?
Boys, you ready to feel old? John, your Washington football team, the Commanders, have added Jesse Madden, the grandson of John Madden, to their coaching staff. He will act as the Commanders' offensive quality control coach after being a quarterback and a defensive back at Michigan. Buy or sell, this is newsworthy.
Well, I mean, he's fame adjacent, and he is a football player who's being added to an NFL staff. So it's minor league newsworthy.
Name 5 other quality control coaches in the NFL. Go.
No, I won't. But I mean, it's kind of cool. Could you say he was a quarterback and a defensive back at Michigan? Not really.
Yeah, by name only.
Yeah, he was there. But I guess it's kind of cool.
Brody, I'm assuming the reason you wrote and asked this question today is because this was the front page of ESPN at one point today.
Oh, God.
It was a little bit of a slow news day, and I get that.
Yeah.
But this is not worthy. Like, there's got to be at least 100 more stories more prevalent than this.
It's not even on the front page
It's not anymore. It was at the point that Brody wrote this question.
I saw it today too.
Go ahead, Brody. What else you got for us?
Cam Ward is
Heard of it.
channeling his inner Aaron Rodgers. He said he will make every NFL team that passes on him in the NFL draft remember and regret not drafting him. Buy or sell, that Ward will be the can't believe this guy slipped to of this NFL draft.
There's always one, right? And but the thing is, it's very rarely a quarterback. And like Aaron Rodgers was probably one of the very few last guys where it was like
Russell Wilson.
Yeah, okay, second round. Yeah, I'll give you that. But Russell Wilson wasn't in the green room type guy though. Like,
No.
This is like people that were thought to maybe be a top 10 pick in the NFL draft, sliding all the way back.
And yeah, who had a draft day fall.
Yeah. Listen, when you are this good and you are playing at this elite of a level and you would need to take a step up in competition and elevate yourself, you need to use whatever motivation you possibly can to get there. And I don't have a problem with this. And listen, if that's what Cam Ward needs to tell himself, and that's the motivation you need, why not?
Will he be the can't believe this guy slipped guy? No, because I think he's going to go in the first round. Somebody's going to take him.
He's
in the
going
first
top 10.
round.
He's going
So
top 10.
I don't think he's going to be that guy, and I don't think he's going to be good enough to be like, man, I can't believe he was taken all the way to 11th. Like, you've got to be super elite for us to not believe you were taken at
Patrick
11th.
Mahomes,
I mean,
level.
Yeah, like
Because he was taken at 10.
You've got to be beyond everything for us to gasp at remembering that you were taken outside the top 10.
You know when Mitch
but still
Trubisky
in the
got
first
drafted
round.
over Pat Mahomes?
Those were the days.
There's a lot of people that don't want to remember that.
That was a fun
And they're
laugh.
in Chicago.
Usually centered around the Windy City. What else we got? Oh, is that it, Brody?
That is everything. But
Oh, you got a bonus? We got a bonus question, right?
4 nations face off.
Mm-hmm.
Canada, USA. Buy or sell, USA will win again.
Why? Because we're good American Citizens.
Yeah, I buy. USA's got the better squad.
Oh, the
Did,
Southern Canadian descent coming
Wow.
out.
did anyone watch the game against Sweden last night?
Is Sweden
Crickets.
America?
Sweden's not America,
Oh.
but Sweden played America.
True.
You would know that if you kept up on
Well, that's
the Four Nations face off.
Well, they're all playing each other, so I did know that.
Okay. Well, did you watch the game?
I did. I watched America versus Sweden. I didn't watch Canada versus Sweden.
America versus Sweden. I'm talking about.
Yes, I did.
Last night. Canada played Finland last night.
I know. I'm telling.
Which,
okay.
by the way,
Just to
Finland,
ask your question.
what the heck are you guys doing? All you had to do was tie Canada, and then we would have gotten Sweden in the final.
Dan, do you want to let
just for fun?
Do you want to let Matt and Lincoln 402-951-1620 know that you're colluding, trying to get Tyson Terry to go to other schools?
Yeah, I will.
Okay.
I think he's a talented wrestler, but no. I only worry if that is the effort that we are going to give against Sweden. Granted, we sat a lot of guys last night. Both of the Tuchuks got very short minutes. We weren't getting probably the best out of Gensel that we could have gotten out of him. I think America wins.
Former UNO Maverick, Jake Gensel.
I think
Good call.
This is a little bit closer. We're going to have an actual very competitive game.
Dan, I need you to change your Twitter handle to Tampering Dan. Hey, if you missed Buy or Sell tonight, check it out. SoundCloud.com/AfterHours1620. It was brought to you by our friends at Controlled Comfort Heating and Air. It is cold outside. You don't want to be cold inside. Head over to ControlledComfort.com tonight. Book a maintenance appointment with the team. They'll come out and take a look at your furnace and your AC to make sure that you're ready for the summer months as well. Check out ControlledComfort.com and set up a maintenance appointment tonight. We'll be right back. Which position will be affected the most by the 105-man roster cut in college football? We'll debate the other side of the break. 60-20 zone.
Bring them out, 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 bring them out.
Score update. This might be relevant to some people around these parts. Villanova is beating UConn.
Yeah, only by 3.
Yeah, but still, it's in stores, and Villanova's whole entire season just doesn't make sense. Kyle Neptune, what are you doing? It is the After Hours Lounge, brought to you by
The Neptunes?
Pyramid Contractors. Head over to pyramidroof.com tonight. Book a free estimate on your windows or gutters, siding, your roof. They do it all. Check out pyramidroof.com tonight. I might be rooting for Villanova to win this game. No, just unbiasedly. Which position will be affected the most in college football by the 105-man roster cut?
I have the correct answer.
I think I do too. Let's see if we agree. What's yours?
Tight end.
Ooh, okay. We don't have the same answer. Why?
It was very common for teams in the recent history of college football to amass 47 tight ends on their roster.
Facts.
And like have a little different role for each one of them. We have our run blocking tight end. We have a pass blocking tight end. We have a pass catching tight end. We have a deep pass catching tight end. We have a tight end that catches the ball along the sideline. We have a special teams blocking tight end. We have a tight end that we also use as a long snapper sometimes in emergency situations. We have a backup kicker who's also a tight end. Like there are like 18 tight ends on any given roster, and that's just not going to be the case anymore. Like we are going to see a huge cut down on the number of tight ends that get collegiate scholarships.
So I think we're going to see that across every position, though.
I think it affects tight end more because like there's never been a tight end that a head coach doesn't love. Like,
which is
honestly,
exactly why I think that's the wrong answer. Because it feels like it's happening in the NFL. You got a bunch of NFL guys that do different things with teams, and that's what college coaches tend to model. It's a copycat league for a reason, right? I think it's going to be the running back because we're seeing the diminishing returns on running back contracts in the NFL. We're seeing less running backs being recruited from the high school levels than ever before, and it feels like there just doesn't feel like there's a need for that many different running backs because you don't have guys. They're like, even when roster sizes were allowed to balloon, you didn't really have too many scat backs versus big backs. You didn't really have pass catching running backs versus running backs at a plethora. Like you had more tight ends than you did running backs on most rosters in college football because of the points you pointed out. And I think you're going to see that be even cut down. Okay, we just need a guy that could run downhill because we've got a pass catching tight end, we've got a slant runner, we've got a crossing route wide receiver, and we're very rarely going with a running back in our formation anyway. I really think it's going to be the running back that sees the biggest cuts across college football.
Currently, Nebraska's got 7 running backs and 9 tight ends on their roster.
Okay.
I want to look up and see what the difference was last year.
I could probably tell you off the top of my head. So you lost 4 tight ends, you lost 2 running backs. So what's that, 13-7? Or 13-9, sorry, 13-9.
So it was a difference of 4, it's now a difference of 2.
Yep. Okay, so that means more tight ends have been cut. But it feels like there's more value around the tight end position right now because of the adversity. Because like I think about a guy like oh my god, why am I drawing a blank? The tight end from
Tyler Warren.
No, he's in Lincoln now. He played wide receiver this year. Played 8-man
Carter
football.
Nelson.
Carter Nelson. Thank you. I do not know why I could not think of his name to save my life. A guy like that where you could see the adversity in him. Obviously, that's a different conversation because he's a high-end 4-star player. He's a top 100 guy. So you're going to make room for your roster for a guy like that on your roster no matter what, right? But when you have a guy that you can go, hey, we could just let him go out and play wide receiver right now and then let him morph into being a tight end versus a running back that does the same exact things the other 3 guys ahead of him, it just feels like there's more adversity out of that position the way college football is played right now than the running back spot. I personally think that the running back position is more valuable. I'm talking about the way the rest of the country is looking.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying.
Why could I not think of Carter Nelson's name?
Listed on Nebraska's roster last year, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 running backs were listed on the roster last year. Tight end, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 tight ends. So you went from 12 running backs to 7. You went from 10 tight ends to 9.
Oh, I was only counting graduation, not transfer out. So that's my bad.
Yep. So, I mean, you might be right. It just feels to me like we're going to see not quite as many tight ends.
I think, but the thing that I think this puts a little more pressure on, we talked about at the beginning of the show, the EJ Barthel contract extension is, this puts a little bit more pressure on not missing.
Oh, sure.
And I don't mean from a, like, hey, we got to fill that position next year. I think from like a coaching recruiting standpoint, this feels like it's going to raise the merit in which you're graded on by your head coach and your probably athletic department on how you do your job. Because specifically in the running back room next year, we talked about it. Like, obviously, you're adding Jamarian Parker, Connor Booth, and those guys to the equation next year. Nebraska's had a really bad miss rate at running back. We talked about that at the beginning.
Yeah.
That can't happen going forward because there's no, hey, we got a really good walk-on that can kind of pick up the slack here conversation anymore.
Especially if like what we talk about being that we think is going to be coming down the line where you're signing a contract with a player and they're going to be there for 2-3 years.
Yep.
Like not like
and paying them.
This works in both directions, right? Like not only is the player not like allowed to leave, you're not going to be able to get rid of them.
Right.
You have a contract with this person. So, the accuracy in recruiting is going to become even more important. You can't just load up on a bunch of guys and hope one of them works. No, you got to make one of them work. You better be really good.
I wanted to hit on this at the top of the show, but we kind of got caught up talking about some other stuff. We had to get to Bob and Tyson. Scott Frost had an interesting statement at his press conference yesterday.
Yeah.
Kind of felt like a sideways shot at Trev Alberts, but I want to get your thoughts on it. He was asked about his current situation with his current athletic director, and he said, Terry's been great. I'm so grateful to have an AD who's on my side and working alongside me. When you're in the other situation, it's very difficult and debilitating, to be honest with you. When you feel like you're working and you don't have someone alongside you, Terry and I are on the same page, and he's trying to give us everything we need to be successful, and I'm thankful for that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but in the first 3 years that Scott Frost was in Lincoln, he had an athletic director that was very much on his side. Is that a fair statement to say about Bill Moose?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Frost went 12-20 in that stretch and started off 0-6.
Yeah.
I get, like, it was painfully obvious that Bill Moose was forced out of Lincoln. It was painfully obvious that Trev Alberts was not very happy that Scott Frost was his head football coach. But I think it's really unfair and probably not very wise of Scott Frost to be pulling the skeletons out of the closet. Like, you have a second life here. You got to go back to Orlando. You get this chance again. Maybe let well enough be well enough and move on.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't like reading into things like this, and I don't like the way it goes down. And I mean, I don't like what Scott Frost is insinuating. I don't like Scott Frost's tenure at Nebraska. I don't like that Trev Alberts left. I don't like that Bill Moose spent billions of dollars on losing aspirations. Like, it's all bad. Like, you know what I mean? It's
which is why
the vibes were so bad.
Which is why it's so weird that he's bringing this up, by the way.
The vibes were so bad. Like, this is a dark chapter in the history of Nebraska football.
Arguably the darkest.
And Scott Frost was a part of it. And it still seems, Jimmy, today, it still seems like he cannot own the fact that he was a part of the losingest stretch in Nebraska football history. He's still deflecting and still saying that it's not my fault.
Do you think part of it, like, and we've talked about this a lot on the show, like, you've got to have a certain level of confidence to do this job, right? Do you think part of him is trying to convince himself that it wasn't necessarily on him to do it?
Man, I don't want
to. Because that's kind of how it comes across.
I don't want to think about, like, what's going on in his mind. But
sure.
The thing is that everybody was responsible.
I agree. I wholeheartly agree with that.
You can't pin it on one thing. If you remember, like, when Frost first took over, well, these aren't my guys, and they're not with the program, and then and then it was, well, my AD, he doesn't want me here, and
which was true in his defense,
but it was never his fault.
Sure,
and it's still not his fault, right? Like, I don't know what else we can say. I honestly, I hope Scott Frost is successful, and I hope he finds happiness and peace in his life.
Sure. I think that's the main sentiment around him. Like, people on Twitter might be like, F that guy, and I hope he fails. I don't think they honestly mean that, because, like, for what does that do for anybody? And I don't think it necessarily reflects on Nebraska negatively if he goes down there and has success. Like, people mature, people develop. Like, I don't think it reflects negatively on Carolina if Matt Rule wins in Lincoln.
No.
So, but
Carolina fans were real salty at the beginning of Matt Rule's tenure at Nebraska.
I think they still are. But I think it's for a lot of the same reasons, right? I mean, like, people at Carolina looked at what he did at Temple, what he did at Baylor, and he's a program builder and a developer, and that's exactly what we need because we suck in Charlotte. And a lot of people looked at Scott Frost as this guy that waved the magic wand in 2 years and
went from 0-12 to 12.
By Scott Frost's self-admission had the magic sauce in year 2, and we're going to be quick or we're going to be fast, and you
better get us in year 1
now, yeah. And it just, like, you won it at Central Florida. You don't need to do this. You know what I mean? And it could have genuinely been I'm just really thankful for the athletic director that I have now because my job.
But that's not what he said.
But it's not what he said. It could be what he meant. It's not what he said.
And it just matters how you say things.
Yeah, which is why you can make all the connections that you could from this comment. If you missed this segment, check it out at soundcloud.com/afterhours1620. It was brought to you by Jerry Ryan Clothing and Sportswear. Everybody that's watching on the YouTube stream right now, take a great look at this quarter zip I got on right now that I'm wearing. You jealous? You want one? All you got to do is stop by 78th and Dodge. Talk to Dan and John, the guys. They'll get you fitted for yours. Make sure it looks, hey, listen, you're going to be able to pull it off this well. I mean, I'm a pretty good-looking guy, but you could probably get pretty close to this perfect if you stop by 78th and Dodge. Jerry Ryan's been dressing Omaha for over 50 years. Which non-Big Ten opponent do you want to see on Nebraska's schedule every single football season?
None of them.
We'll debate. We come back. 6:20 The Zone.
Hi there, folks. Dan Campanen here to remind you once again, the Pepper Jacks has 10, soon to be 12, great local locations where I personally can get my steak gunner Philly with all of the vegetables, including jalapeno juice, because boy, oh boy, do I need my Philly extra spicy just to get it down. And remember, folks, the most important thing that you can do at Pepper Jacks is get those French fries. If you're hearing my voice and you're getting hungry, go to one of Pepper Jack's 12 great local locations tonight.
7:36 on a Tuesday night edition of the After Hours Lounge. I'm just not allowed to have nice things, guys. Somehow UConn came back. Like Villanova buried a 3.
They were only down 3.
Villanova hit a 3, and then they had another bucket, and they were up. They were up 8, and then UConn went on a 10-0 run, basically.
I could have told you UConn was going to win.
They fouled way too much.
Stupid. You know it's not stupid? Getting a free estimate on your roof. Head over to pyramidroof.com. Book a free estimate for your windows, gutters, roof, your siding. They do it all. Check out pyramidroof.com tonight. It has been fun to have a 2-year stretch against Colorado. It's been fun to have a 2-year stretch against Oklahoma. Is that who Nebraska's ideal non-Big Ten opponent every single year would be, though? I think we're getting dangerously close to a mandatory crossover between the SEC and the Big Ten. And that throws a possibility of a Nebraska-Oklahoma or matchup every single year, because Nebraska's only current built-in rival every single year is Iowa. But is that who the proverbial we would like to see Nebraska play? Like, did you get more enjoyment out of Colorado, or did you get more enjoyment out of Oklahoma? Now, there's some layers to this, because I think a lot of people enjoyed the Colorado stuff for a couple reasons. A, we won one of those games.
Well, sure.
And B, it was Deion Sanders, right? And the Oklahoma thing wasn't as interesting or as intriguing because neither were really at the top of their powers. And it's been a little while since that game has had any relevance. Now, if you're Nebraska and you're Oklahoma, you're hoping that changes. And does that help you become more relevant? To me, the Missouri matchup would always be interesting because when Gary Pinkel had things running, and maybe even Kansas State can be thrown into this discussion as well, when Snyder had things going, like there was
the Gabbert Chase Daniel era,
legit like hatred, like
Brad Smith,
burning desire to win that game. Like people were traveling in droves to Manhattan and Columbia to be there if Nebraska won that game to celebrate it. Now that clearly happened in Colorado, but I think after the Gary Barnett years, and obviously Colorado left a lot to be desired, and there wasn't there wasn't as much passion there. And Oklahoma, it feels like a couple generations removed from that being the game, right? So I wonder if we were to ask, like, because I think all 4 of us in this room might have a different answer to this question, because Brody probably has a different perspective on what Nebraska should do. Dan probably has that as well. And so let's do this, Brody. If you were looking outside of the Big Ten and you're talking about a rivalry, who is it from Nebraska's past that you think we'll let you speak for your entire generation, the high school class of 2025?
You can speak for Gen Z.
Okay. Having been to the Colorado game when Nebraska played Colorado, I think that the amount of fans and, like, let's just say the student section, because I don't think anybody at that point was alive, or not alive, but that wasn't big when they were in the Big 12. But
no, none of them would have been alive.
Yeah.
That would have been a correct statement.
So having played Colorado, what was it?
No, they'd be alive. You're right.
Yeah, but
Sorry.
they weren't,
old enough to remember.
Old enough, yeah. Having played Colorado and, seeing the level of hate, and also how it was rebranded with the bringing Deion back and all the new moves.
Yeah.
I think that Colorado just kind of reinstalled the hatred.
Let me ask you, do you feel that same way if Deion, like, this is just your opinion, if Deion Sanders were to leave Colorado?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, look back at
that's important.
AJ Martinez years. Even then,
sure,
people did not
Yeah.
like Colorado.
Yes. Adrian Martinez being one of those, by the way.
Yeah.
Dan Campen, your thoughts? Who is the ideal rival outside of the Big Ten for Nebraska?
So I think if we're just going like strictly off of the possibility that you posited earlier,
sure,
Oklahoma makes the most sense to me.
Is that who you would want, though? This is your personal choice.
If we're going SEC, I would like Oklahoma.
Okay.
Because that series means something to the elder statesmen of Nebraska football.
What about just former Big 8, Big 12 rivals?
I would love Iowa State.
Oh, okay.
I think Iowa State would be the most fun.
I don't hate that take. Okay. I didn't think about that.
That's the closest.
Yeah. And I was going to say, that was one of my first, like, Husker experiences that I had outside of the state of Nebraska.
Kids, college football used to be played with your next door neighbor rivals.
Yeah. And it was great. The fact that you could be like, all right, games at 4:30 on a Saturday. we leave at noon.
Yeah.
We find somewhere to park in Ames. It's fine. And we'll just walk to Jack Trice. It's not that hard. But I mean, personally, I would just go Iowa State because they're close. I feel like that could be a renewed Big 12 rivalry for Nebraska to have again. And, you know, whose corn's better? Ours or theirs?
Oh, that's not even up for debate. John Schreiner.
Yeah, this one's hard for me because I think there are two choices. So, from a historical perspective, Dan's absolutely right. It's Oklahoma. And for, the eyeballs and the attention and the purposes of increasing the brand and doing all those things, I think Oklahoma is the right choice.
Okay. Is that what you would want personally, though?
I'm torn because I think for a lot of people, the team that gave Nebraska the most fits at the end of the Big 8 and at the start of the Big 12 was Kansas State.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the team that, like, when I was like a young kid,
you call it the Greg Sharp rivalry.
When I was a young kid, that was never in doubt.
Sure.
Like, the Nebraska was going to beat Kansas State. I think they beat them like 37 times in a row or something. Like
right.
That. It was nuts. We were just never going to lose to Kansas State. Then suddenly Kansas State got good, and it was like, wait a minute.
Who's Bill Snyder?
So if it's one of those two, I'm okay. I think it's Oklahoma or Kansas State.
Dan, I didn't think about the Iowa State thing, and I think that's really intriguing for a lot of reasons. I mean, doesn't seem like Matt Campbell's going anywhere anytime soon, and some of the best rivalries are based off hating coaches and or respecting coaches. I really wonder what the national pundit response would be to Nebraska and Oklahoma getting back on a year in, year out basis, because
the national media would love it.
But I think that's a knee-jerk reaction, but it really felt like they treated the Colorado-Nebraska games, even before Deion, like a bigger deal from a national standpoint than they did the Oklahoma matchup. Now, a lot of that has to do with Nebraska not being very good at the time of when Scott Frost was kind of midway through his stint, and it didn't look like things were going to turn around. Oklahoma just kind of furthered that along the stretch. That could have something to do with it. But from a national standpoint, it really felt like they shined a bigger light on Colorado, because I wonder kind of what Brody was saying, like thinking about the people that were alive or can remember those games being a big deal. And like, because listen, the game of the century was over 50 years ago. Like it's been a long time since that rivalry has meant anything on a national stage to any degree.
Probably
2009.
Yeah, I mean, when they played for the Big 12 title.
Yeah, 2011, sure. But even then, like, that wasn't deciding a national championship by any stretch of the imagination.
Certainly.
Though. But it kind of felt like the Big 12 doomed that rivalry when they split everything and said, okay, we're not doing a Nebraska-Oklahoma crossover. And to me, and I think try to look at this from a younger generation and bettering the product, right? And people that 20, 30 years from now are going to travel to Memorial Stadium or whatever the stadium ends up becoming when they eventually tear that monument down, because that feels like that's the direction they're eventually going to go. Sorry to break it to you, folks. Who will care about it then? And it really feels like to me that from a recency standpoint, the Roy Halou game against Missouri, Taylor Martinez showing out against Missouri, it feels like that would be the rivalry that most people of a younger demographic could connect to. And for that reason, and people forget this, there's a trophy involved. And people in the Big Ten,
Missouri-Nebraska bell.
And people in the Big Ten, what do we love? We love us some trophies.
That nobody gave a crap about
until the NCAA football game
years
said
because
it was a thing.
It never left Lincoln, Nebraska.
It's still there, by the way. And it feels like that would fit the narrative of college football more. By the way, proximity, isn't it? If we're talking about proximity and making college football more regional, it would also make sense from that standpoint as well.
Manhattan's closer.
Well, I'm talking about Oklahoma. Sorry, if we're talking about Oklahoma versus Missouri.
Have we overlooked one historical rivalry that would?
I was just about to bring this up.
Probably be.
We go one of two directions here.
The best case scenario for
Nebraska,
one team,
Texas,
Nebraska, Texas.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
That's not a historic rivalry. That was a recent.
That's a one-sided biased rivalry too. And the only reason I didn't bring that up is because it feels like that's the least likely of bedfellow, right? Like it feels like Texas wouldn't be like, yeah, we'd love to do that again for several reasons.
I think Texas wouldn't mind it. I think Nebraska would be like, no chance in HE double hockey sticks.
Snowball.
The other one that nobody else mentioned that could be interesting if things keep going the trajectory they're on. Nebraska, Kansas could be a lot of fun. If Lance
Dude,
Leipold's
you could
the
just
coach
say
there.
any of the old Big 8 teams.
Sure.
Really.
Well, no, because I don't think anybody would care about the Oklahoma State matchup. Nobody would care about that.
Maybe not.
Nobody would care about Texas A&M either if we're talking about
Not
old,
Big 8
old
team.
Big 12. Yeah, if we're talking about a big old 12. Trev Alberts isn't going to be there long enough for people to care about that. For this to happen,
fair enough.
And
fair enough.
And yeah, like today, sure.
I was
5
like, if it
years
were to
from
get,
now,
like, penciled onto
probably
the
not.
schedule this fall, people would be pretty amped up about it.
Yeah, but that's just not going to happen. But yeah, like I don't think it's like, and Dan, no offense, I would be intrigued by it. I don't think it would move the needle for Iowa State either. But I think it would be intriguing around here. But if we're talking about it from a national standpoint, I don't think it's as much as find a Big 8 opponent and plug and play to grab the national media attention. Because if Nebraska put Iowa State on the schedule in 2020 in 2032, the only people who would care about it are here in Ames, Iowa, and that's it.
They should just do an 8-year Big 8 schedule.
That would be awesome. Just do a home and home with both of them. Just roll it over 16 years.
No, I'm saying like,
or I guess it'd be 14.
Play like Iowa State at home this year, at Missouri the next year,
Sure.
Kansas at home, and just rotate it back through every 14 years.
I just think I think the only thing that you would see is like people would be like, no, we need our home game back. Like that'd be difficult. And I think there's a lot of people around these parts that would like to travel too and get back to a place that they haven't been in almost a decade.
Sure.
Hey, if you missed this segment, want to debate along with us, check it out at soundcloud.com/afterhours1620. It was brought to you by our friends at Cunningham's Pub. You know what tomorrow is? It's a Wing Wednesday. You want free beer and wings on us? All you got to do is follow us on Twitter at afterhours1620. Retweet the gift of the wing we post tomorrow night. Went you into a drawing to win a $25 gift card to Cunningham's Pub. We'll be right back, giving you our Papillion Sanitation Trash Takes tonight. Wrap up the show. You got 1620 zone. Shut her down on a Tuesday night here on 1620 Zone, brought to you by Pyramid Contractors. Head over to pyramidroof.com. Book a free estimate for your windows, your gutter, your siding, roof. They do it all. Check out pyramidroof.com tonight. It's time for our Papillion Sanitation Trash Takes tonight. What we're going to do here is all four of us are going to give you a hot take. We'll post a poll on Twitter. You'll vote for who had the best take. Whoever has the least amount of votes had the trashiest take of the evening. I'll go ahead and start us off. Travis Hunter will not be the number one overall draft pick. There's a pretty good defensive lineman in this draft that's got something to say about that. And I think when you look at what the Tennessee Titans need, I don't know, like, obviously Travis Hunter can do a lot, right? That goes without saying. He plays two sides of the ball. But I think Abdul Carter, the edge rusher out of Penn State, is that much of a difference maker that he will end up being the number one overall draft pick, and it will be the correct pick by the Titans as well.
Okay. Interesting. Kyrie Irving wants to play for Australia.
Statements I didn't think I would hear in 2025.
I feel like sometimes I listen to celebrities and athletes and the things that they say, and it makes me feel like I'm the crazy one.
You are.
Because of the things that come out of these people's mouths. Like, I understand Kyrie Irving was born in Australia, but he's already played for the United States of America.
Correct. Okay, I was glad this is where you were going with this.
Can we just stop for a moment and cut the ridiculous nonsense? This is stupid. You played for the USA. You've represented the United States. Cut it out. Get over yourself. Kyrie, listen to me. I know you're listening. I know you're a big fan of the show. So
402-951-1620. We'd love your thoughts.
Put your headphones on so that the rest of the people around you don't have to hear me berate you right now.
Oh.
Cut the nonsense. Stop it. The earth's not flat and you're an American. Chill.
Dan.
The Asiatic black man is the original man.
Follow that, please.
Well, After Hours faithful, I haven't gotten to talk to you about it in a couple weeks, but guess what? The top four in your USA Today hockey poll remains the same, with only slight differences. Michigan State, Boston College, Western Michigan University, and Minnesota still command the top four places in that poll. And I
King
will
of the North
again reiterate to you that Michigan State will be your NCAA champs this year in college ice hockey. They are once again coming on at the exact right time, losing in a shootout recently to Michigan, and then getting a 1-6 win, and then tying Michigan, and then beating them once again 5-3.
That's your college hockey update that nobody asked for. Thanks, Dan. Brody, what's your sanitation trash take tonight?
During the break and also in a previous show, Jimmy said that the All-Star game is dead, and he's right. But Mac McClung brought back the dunk contest. Athletes. Hey, if you get Ja Morant possibly saying he's going to come out and do it next year, I think that's all you need.
Hey, Brody, you know how many times you've heard Ja Morant say that he's going to be in the dunk contest every year? Every year that he's been in the league.
Put it down somewhere. If it happens next year, Mac McClung.
Cool.
So
you know who else jumped over
trash,
a car and did it from further away? Blake Griffin.
Your trash take is Matt McClung is great.
It was boring when he did it.
Yeah, facts. Hey, do you know it's not boring? Re-listening to the After Hours Lounge. If you missed it, check it out at soundcloud.com/afterhours1620. It's brought to you by our friends at Allo Fiber. Listen, if you are a business owner and you don't have a managed service provider, maybe you have a managed service provider that every time you pick up the phone and call them, you're getting a robot on the other side of the line. Don't do that anymore. Switch to Allo Business. They're going to give you the cybersecurity and voice solutions and technology solutions that your company deserves. Head over to allobusiness.com for more details tonight. For Brody Heidemann, Dan Campion, John Schreiner, I've been Jimmy Allen. Happy National Drink Wine Day, everybody.
Whiskey.